I wasn't used to it being about me. That was the first job that I had that was asking me to be number one. And what I always felt like was a number one talent. I did not always want the responsibility of having to carry that which a number one talent has to carry.
What's going on? It's Danny Canada, Deputy Editor at Bossip.com.
Hi, I'm Janae Bolden, Senior Content Director of Pop Culture at iOne Digital.
And this episode of Uncensored is all about none other than Mr. Omari Hardwick. This veteran actor is telling all about his personal life, all about his family, and all about his time acting in Hollywood. So, Janae, this episode is all about Mr. Omari Hardwick being a seasoned actor. One thing I really enjoyed about this was him dishing on his journey and his come up and how he started out actually here in Atlanta, in Decatur, Georgia, and moved into Hollywood and filled up these spaces with all this talent.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's interesting because his start, he definitely comes from kind of a middle-class household. His dad was a lawyer, but he really instilled in him like the importance of family. You know, his dad would work, but he made sure he was home for the kids and he was working with them. He was at their games. All of that kind of stuff was great. I mean, Omari definitely was an athletic kid. We all know he started out as a football player. It's interesting that, as you said, he became an actor because... I'm sorry, I said it wrong. Actor.
The actor.
Actor. Right, because no one would necessarily think that someone who was, you know, a football player would be so interested in theater. But I know when I've interviewed him before in the past, like I have always been so impressed by his presence. And he does give you that, you know, that real, like he's a serious actor and he means serious business about it. But it definitely wasn't easy for him making that transition from being an athlete into an actor. And this episode really lets us know all that. Like he really had quite a bumpy road to becoming Ghost.
He did. And I won't spoil anything. But in this episode, he's going to tell you all about how somehow his looks kind of hindered part of his career and how he overcame that. Like, I understand being too good looking. It happens to me all the time. So I get that plight and I appreciate him just giving us, girl, it's a problem. So I understand what Mr. Hardwick has gone through, but look at where he is today.
Right.
We know him as Ghost on Power. He breaks down that role and how he played up that character and really gave him some depth. And it's just really amazing to see.
Definitely. And one of my favorite things that I, you know, about this particular episode was hearing about some of his relationships. Like he literally had basically a family relationship with Pauletta Washington, who took him in when he was broke. He had nowhere to live. He was like living out of his car, living with friends, couch surfing, all of those things, you know, hiding from the repo man. He really went through it. And it makes a lot of sense how he became an actor, because living under the same roof as none other than Denzel Washington and Pauletta Washington, of course you're going to pick up those great thespian skills that he has. Right. And I know you talked a little bit about really enjoying like some of the things that he revealed about getting that role in Gridiron Gang, right? Like that was kind of...
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to people seeing that, like really talking about... He was, maybe people thought he was too much of a pretty boy, right?
Yeah, Omari really breaks down how, you know, part of his plight was being so attractive. It's working for him now, but it always wasn't that easy. Right. So that's really interesting to see. And it's just nice to see that apparently there's a Washington on that Hardwick last name, because I didn't know he was so close to the Washington family. And it's nice to see that there's this beautiful Black Hollywood family really embracing another Black actor. And I never knew they had that connection. So it's interesting. I'm excited for viewers to see that.
Definitely. I'm pretty sure we're not the only ones who didn't know that. So I know that the Washingtons are going to be sitting at home watching just like the folks out there. And, you know, I know the folks at Bossip want to know about that wife of his, because we've had some articles go viral about them as well. People wondering how they met, how they got to know each other. But you're going to see how she was a real rider's eye for him. She met him when, you know, he was down and out. And there were certain things that really let him know, like, she was the one, you know, was really kind of faded. even just in the way that
Right.
they met. So I'm really excited for people to hear that story, how they met, the
Me
things
too.
that they survived. I mean, as a couple, they definitely survived one of the most difficult things that a married couple could ever experience. I don't want to give too much away,
Right.
but there's a very tragic story that's part of their marriage that they had to overcome.
Right.
They've also triumphed.
Right.
They've stayed together for many years. And he talks all about that, like just getting through the ups and the downs of marriage, which is something we all can relate to. Well, maybe not us since we're single, but you know, the married folks out there.
Still. But it's just nice to see how he talks about his wife. You can tell that that is literally his partner in crime. He is so proud to be her husband, and he really gets into those details about their relationship in a way you've never seen before.
Absolutely.
Okay, here's a preview of Omari Hardwick on Uncensored, airing at 10/9 Central, only on TV1.
We grew up going to Golden Glide, which was a famous skating rink. And just skating, man, and having to deal with all of these New York kids who, of course, their parents were moving them to Atlanta, right? It was the great exodus, black families going to a place where you actually could make some money and you could do something for yourself and you could have a moderate-sized home and it was safe and it wasn't what the kids were dealing with in the streets of New York or in the boroughs of New York, respectively. And so we found ourselves breakdancing in these little crews, man, against these New Yorkers who just felt we were slow. And they would make fun of the Atlanta kid while calling Atlanta their new home, which was kind of weird to me. Ultimately, they figured out how tough we were, and my brother, Cliff Harris, AKA T.I., always says, you know, we slap box just as good as anybody from the East Coast. So I think it was those years of being in Golden Glide and watching New Yorkers navigate, even if they were only 11 years of age, watching the way they dealt, the way they talked, how fast they talked versus the way we talked. And that was art in and of itself. You know, all of those moments for me were like, this is art and this is what I want to do. And I don't necessarily know at that point whether I want to do it in front of the camera, behind the camera, if I just want to be a writer. I didn't really know. I just kind of knew that as much as I got an exhilarating thrill running up and down a basketball court, I equally was feeling that when listening to, you know, music and watching movies. My pops was a huge movie buff. I kind of was like, I think I'm in my comfort zone with this. If it's not gonna be football and run up and down a football field with my college roommates, then it'll be this art.
Thanks so much for tuning in, guys. You can see more of Bossip Uncensored only on Bossip.com and on TV1.tv.